I'm going to speak for yourself, Marcellus Wiley. I hope I win some arguments today.
I get more upset before the show than I get with you during the show.
I get more upset 24 hours in your life than I do anywhere else because every time I hear you talk, all right, go ahead, say it.
Beyonce is a top 3 artist of all time, and you don't even
Hell no, you got to add a digit. That's Emmanuel Acho with the irrational takes over there. Anita Baker, Whitney Houston. All right, let's get started with the NBA playoffs and the Bucks.
What?
The Bucks lost to the Hawks last night, and they also lost their superstar. Giannis suffered a hyperextended left knee injury in the third quarter and is expected to have imaging done today. This injury adds to the other stars going down in the playoffs. LeBron James called out the NBA recently for their quick turnaround on the season, saying he, quote, knew exactly what would happen. Scared to ask Acho right now with these Beyonce takes. But Acho, does Giannis' injury validate LeBron's concern over NBA schedule?
His concern was validated before Giannis' injury, right? Giannis' injury was not a direct correlation to what LeBron was bringing up. What LeBron was bringing up was obviously talking about fatigue, talking about excess exertion. He was talking about non-contact injuries, which I will get to because LeBron James was correct. But Giannis' injury, because it was in fact a injury and a knee injury at that, it just reminded me like, wait a second,
wait a minute.
What's really going on with the NBA this year? What's really going on with the playoffs this year?
What's going on?
What's really going on with our superstars this year?
Tell me out, y'all.
You always lead with the headline. That's what they say.
Well,
you
damn.
lead with the headline.
Can you hurry up?
I'm
We
not
2
gonna
minutes
bury
in.
the lead. I'm not going to bury the lead.
What the headline?
So the headline is this.
What?
LeBron James was right about his stance on injuries because it is not volume that hurts an individual. It's not intensity that hurts an individual. It is volume and intensity too quickly. I want to talk about two knee injuries because we just saw Giannis's. Kawhi Leonard's was non-contact. Jamal Murray's was non-contact. Kawhi Leonard, a knee sprain. We don't know the severity yet.
What do you mean non-contact? He got bumped.
Right knee, non-contact.
Hold on, it bumped your body, but go ahead. I'm not going to interrupt your take, but your take already started.
I literally rewatched it.
What do you mean literally? He didn't get bumped?
Kawhi Leonard's knee injury was non-contact.
I don't know what you call contact.
Okay, then it wasn't major contact. Can we at least agree on that?
I agree on the truth. Yeah, that's the truth.
Okay. It was the Kawhi Leonard injury, non-major contact. Jamal Murray's injury, non-contact.
Major one is you. I'm on one today. We play tonight.
We 3 minutes into the show.
Oh, hey, we ain't got your headline yet. You want to go there?
I'm trying.
Okay,
I was trying. I couldn't get a sentence out.
All right,
I couldn't get a sentence out.
All right.
You know what? I'm gonna get back to that. I'm gonna get back to that because you done messed up. I'm trying to land a plane. You done messed up the whole plane's landing. The fact of the matter is, when I look at it, superstars are gone. You got the 4 teams that went to the conference finals last year. They were the 4 seed, the Nuggets, the 7 seed, the Lakers. Then on the flip side, the 5 and the 6 seed, or the 5 and the 7 seed, and the Heat and the Celtics. Now the 4 teams in the conference finals, 2 of which didn't even make the playoffs last year. I think that the NBA, because of the injuries, because of the shortened season, it is much more dilute.
Come on, man. Damn, Acho. People been telling me they loving our show. People say we go so deep and we keep it so real that other shows over there tap dancing compared to us. And I said, I don't want to compare, I want to prepare. But damn it, you ain't prepared. LeBron is not talking in truth and reality. You know what I'm going to say? Let me start with my headline. I think LeBron actually didn't look at this situation properly. The headline is this: these players didn't take advantage of the excess time that they were given. Let's go by dates so we don't even get into the rhetoric and conjecture. These dudes weren't taking care of themselves. Don't give me all this contact, major, minor contact, excess. Let's talk about what happened this year. The NBA started on what day? December 22nd. Check. When did the NBA end? Last year. March 11th. Check. When did they resume for the bubble? July 7th. March 11th to July 7th, nearly 4 months after the shutdown, they sent every team except 8 to the bubble. Okay, so you already got 4 months. Now, every team didn't even go to the bubble. So there are 8 teams that have from March 11th to December 22nd to just work out. Oh, but now we're going to talk about this excess. So already we're talking about 25% of the league not even in this conversation. So let's talk about the other 75%. There was a minimum of 6 weeks you had to spend in the bubble. And some of them spent the minimum because they got bounced out. So now we're starting to see team after team have not only 4 months before the bubble, but I was only there for 6 weeks. And then after July 7th, I got to December 22nd. And then on December 22nd, I ain't even got to play 82 games. I got to play 72. People not looking at this properly. I'm sorry, LeBron, I got to call you out because you got the headline. They had more time. They had excess time. And you know what they say about anybody. When you want something done, give them a deadline. You want something done, give it to a busy person. You gave these athletes too much runway. You gave these athletes too much time. And that, if you want to go there, is what's happening. These guys didn't take care of themselves because the time is not the issue. The rush schedule is not the issue. And the shortened season certainly can't be the issue. Fact is, these dudes weren't being professional.
So I think it is the issue. It depends on how you slice it. It depends on how you dice it. But I got the evidence because you know me. I'm the type of man that comes to work with receipts.
I got you.
Look at the two players I bring up in question, Jamal Murray, Kawhi Leonard, the two players in question.
Okay.
Look at how much excess they played from, you talked about that bubble period. They went to the bubble, and the bubble really started July 30th, to their time of injury. Jamal Murray gets hurt April 12th. Kawhi Leonard from July 30th, time the bubble started last year, to their time of injury. Kawhi Leonard's was June 14th. We'll look at it from 2019 to 2020. Then we'll look at it from 2020 to 2021.
Let's do it.
Now, it's incredibly intriguing that you see Jamal Murray played 41% more minutes from the same period of July 30th to April 12th when he tore his ACL. Kawhi Leonard played 78% more minutes from July 30th to when he injured his knee as the year prior. So, again, it comes down to volume and intensity are what are hurting people. Yes, there was a longer break in 2020 offseason, but the fact of the matter is, those two athletes who suffered major knee injuries had to play significantly more time than they played the year before. You can't deny the evidence that says, hey, big dog, they had to play more time. I would rather, typical NBA season.
Let's go.
You play for 8 months, 4-month off season, you play for 8 months. Simple. The NBA, what we saw recent, you played for 6 months. 5-month off season. Now you pick back up. You play for 2 months, 1 month break. Now you play for another 9 months. I'd rather get a longer break, my typical 8-4, 8-4, 8-4, 8-4, than all of a sudden have to come out there and play excessive games in a shortened period of time. It's going to lead to somebody getting hurt.
What do you mean excessive games? This is so evidence-based that I'm not even giving you my opinion yet. I'm just like, these dudes lying. They lying. If I was a strength and conditioning coach, if I was one of these workout gurus out there, if I was Chris Brickley or some of them dudes, I'd be like, damn, they've been here for a long time. Because these dudes didn't have to go play as much as they do in the normal offseason. They had much more time.
What time are we looking at?
I'm looking at this. It stopped March 11th. The bubble started July 7th. You talking about July 30th.
Yes, when the games kicked off. Yes, sir.
Yes. Which is going to help my point. Not everybody got there July 7th, but the bubble started July 7th. Then you got to do your quarantine, whatever you showed up, you showed up. July 30th. You know that 6 teams left on August 17th? So wait a minute. 8 teams didn't even go to the bubble. Then 6 teams were gone in 2.5 weeks.
Yes, sir.
So talk to me, Acho. March 11th to December 22nd, and all you had to do was work 2.5 weeks. We talking about 14 teams. 46% of the league didn't even have to work but for 2.5 weeks. For how many months is that? 9? Shut up. Dog, that is not the reason they hurt. The reason they hurt is because you're playing a sport and people get hurt.
I'm talking about the injured players. Okay, well, I'm not going to talk to you about the players that weren't in the bubble. Well, I'm talking about the injured players.
They were on those teams. 14, half the league.
But who got hurt? When we're talking about who's gotten hurt, Jamal Murray's gotten hurt.
Giannis got a hyperextension.
AD got hurt.
Yeah.
LeBron James has dealt with injuries.
Contact. Last night, we are talking about this because of last night.
Yes.
Was that a fatigue issue?
No.
But that was a dude.
Which is what I preface with.
Okay.
I preface with Giannis's injury is not a direct correlation to what LeBron James is speaking about. But Giannis's injury does bring back to light the fact that stars are getting hurt. So now that it's bringing back to light the stars are getting hurt, I'm trying to look at why stars are getting hurt. But even still, if we wanted to, my premise is, even if we removed it from a sports conversation.
Okay.
it is much harder on the body to even just change a workout. You know this. Why does your strength coach, you've changed your workouts the last year since I met you, you've got your body down in tip-top shape, look like you're back in playing shape. What do you want to do if you want to make your body change? You change your workout to shock your body.
Yeah.
Changing a workout, quite literally, you know based on your kinesiology studies, I know based off my kinesiology studies, changing a workout literally is what you want to do to shock your body. When you are used to playing for 8 months and being off for 4 months, playing for 8 months and being off for 4 months, and you and I both know that changing the structure of a workout, changing repetitions and changing work, shocks the body. They literally changed the structure of how they worked out, and it shocked the body. But if we don't want to look at athletes, then you would have to say that what I'm about to tell you is a sheer coincidence.
Let's hear it.
2002 was the last time that teams that did not make the conference finals, that teams that did not make the playoffs last year, 2 teams both made the conference finals. 2002. The last time that teams that did not make the playoffs appeared in the conference finals, being the Phoenix Suns, Atlanta Hawks this year.
Right.
Also, this is the first time that 4 teams that were in the conference finals, which was last year, the Denver Nuggets, the Los Angeles Lakers, the Boston Celtics, the Miami Heat, were seeded this low. So either the difference in the bubble and the changing of the schedule actually played a detriment to the teams that had to play there the longest, i.e. the Boston Celtics, the Miami Heat, the Denver Nuggets, the Los Angeles Lakers, or they just all got sorry. And then also either the teams like the Phoenix Suns and the Atlanta Hawks just got really good, better than everybody in the league, sans 2 other teams, or the fact that they weren't in the bubble for an elongated period or at all, Atlanta Hawks, played a difference in how healthy they've been and thus how successful they've been. It's got to be one or the other.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Look, you could talk about emerging teams. Cleveland Browns just all of a sudden, boom. We're going to blame COVID. We're going to blame last year. We're going to blame the conditions. You could be a thinly constructed team like, we surged and now we're coming down the hill. We already reached our apex. It could be just a weird year. But I'm going to go with what Shaq went with. And Shaq wasn't talking about Giannis in particular, but Shaq was like, please, y'all want to talk about how we used to play the game and how we didn't get injured to this rate? I'm not going to use a myopic viewpoint and talk about the stars and then try to now exaggerate that to the masses. That's what's happening. LeBron did it. You can't use a myopic celebrity viewpoint, which is, this is happening up here, it's happening everywhere. That's what happens when people move to LA. They land here. Everyone has plastic surgery. Everyone has a Mercedes. Everyone is Hollywood. No, you just stuck right here in this little lane. Look at it all in totality. Injury rate, league data shows the player injury rate this season is down about 6%. Oh, LeBron, I love you so much, but don't say this, big dog. Look, a statistical variance I could give you respect for, up, down, 0.3%, as some were saying. But this down 6%, these dudes have more time than ever. I understand what you're saying about shocking the body, but this is no shock. You have too much runway, too much calendar for you to be shocked. If someone walked up to me and said, I'm playing in the NBA, and our normal offseason is late April, May, and then it starts up in September, October. But then they say, no, next year, you got from March to December for half the league. And the other half of the league, you got to work 6 weeks. Man, what are you talking about? That is Gucci. I almost feel like I'm a red shirt because I'm going to have so much time to work on my body. There were contact injuries. The non-contact injuries chalk it up because in years past, we didn't blame COVID. We didn't blame a compromised season. And LeBron, they told you guys before the season, it would cost roughly $500 million in revenue after last season's shortfall of $1.5 billion. And them players signed on the dotted line. Don't give me excuses now, big dog. Y'all should have worked out.
You can sign on the dotted line, but I don't think that changes some of these facts. But also, you and I both play the game. So sometimes you and I get caught up in nuggets and caught up in facts and caught up in all this nonsense. And we can just have a real conversation. I don't even need to. I'm just trying to be real with you. Play the game.
Let's go.
It would be much harder as an NFL player, or we can go back to college, where at least from a collegiate level, you and I had similar talent levels. When we got to the NFL, we took off. It would be much more difficult as any athlete to have to play starting in July, assuming you and I were the big dogs and had to play a lot of time, to have to play in July and play all the way through June, with maybe 70 days off, because that's what the Lakers had, that's what the Heat had, 70 days off. It would be much more difficult to do that than it would for you and I to get our routine 4 months off and go back to playing. Just if you and I take all the nuggets and take all the other nonsense and all the notes and all, like, it would be harder on you, the former professional athlete, to have to go from July to June with 70 days off when you're used to getting 4 months off. Even if we want to break this down to the most fundamental conversation with no moderator, it's easier on us to, it's easier on you to do that.
I disagree. First, they got 4 months before the bubble even started. You got to count that.
It can't.
You're not working out?
Here's why.
Here's
why, again, let's just have a basic conversation. Even if you took 2 days off of running versus taking 1 day off of running versus taking 5 days off of running, that 10 miles is still going to hurt. Now, you can say, hey, big dog, but you got 5 days off, but you got 3 days off, but you got 1 day off. That 10 miles is still going to hurt. So even if you got 5 months off, those 10 consecutive months with a 1.5 month period is still going to hurt.
They got 4 months before the bubble. Half the league got 9.5 months off, basically.
But we're not talking about them. If we talk about them, I agree with you.
If we're talking about them, I agree with you. Because LeBron talked about them. He said the league, and that's half the league. Half the league got 9.5 months off. Shut it. And the other percentages of that half got up to 7 months off, which is still more than normal. But here's why I know this makes no sense. 72 games this year, which is a reduced season, in 146 days, compared to normally 82 games in 177 days. So they gave them an extra month for only 10 games. No way you can look at this math and logically say that these guys were taxed this year. On top of the fact that they didn't want to get taxed, therefore they signed up for a deal that now they want to cry about. It just doesn't add up. I wish I would have played in NBA this year with all this lead up, because this is the most opportune time they had to physically recover and to mentally get yourself right. And the world told you couldn't go anywhere. So that's even more time to work on your game. It sounds like a lot, but it really ain't that much. Coming up, Charles Barkley called out Paul George for saying he gets criticized too much. We'll tell you whose side we're on. But first, the Suns can book a trip to the NBA Finals with a win tonight. We'll tell you if Chris Paul's legacy is on the line. Next on Speak for Yourself.
The Suns are a win away from a trip to the NBA Finals. This would be Chris Paul's first shot at a title in 12 previous playoff appearances, but he has to beat the Clippers tonight, and he's been struggling since his return in Game 3, shooting just under 32% with only 2 threes. We got to bring in NBA analyst Slick Rick Bucher, but Marcellus, is Chris Paul's legacy on the line tonight?
No, it's not on the line tonight. Hey, look, his legacy is already solidified, and let me tell you why. In success, let's say the Phoenix Suns right now go out there and get in advance past the Clippers and get to the finals, and they beat whoever comes out the East. Hip, hip, hooray. And there was a time, maybe just a couple weeks ago, we were going to give so much of the lion's share of credit to Chris Paul, getting the team over the hump, getting the team into the playoffs, being the court general, his leadership, his acumen, his genius, all of that through osmosis. That's in success. We were going to give that to Chris Paul, but not now. Because in failure, if this team goes out there and loses to the Clippers the next 2 games, we're going to look at Chris Paul as like, you're the reason, largely, why they lost to Chris Paul. Lost to the Clippers. Think about this. Chris Paul, in success, would have to share with DeAndre Ayton and, of course, Devin Booker. What in failure, he would sit there and have to take most, if not all, of the blame because of his issues post-COVID. So that's why I don't think his legacy is going to really be affected. Chris Paul would certainly benefit a little bit from the fact that, wow, Chris Paul finally made it to the finals. Wow, Chris Paul won in the finals. But be real, he's not going to be the first person you look at, because you're going to say they got to the finals in spite of Chris Paul. All of that adds up to, in success, you're not going to get to be on the medal and be number 1. And in failure, they're going to look at you like, yo, you were the gold for the reason we failed.
I won't say that Chris Paul's legacy is on the line, but I do believe that the growth of his legacy is on the line. We know Chris Paul's floor, but we still are trying to figure out what is Chris Paul's ceiling. Here's the issue with Chris Paul in this game tonight and why the growth of his legacy is on the line. 2015 Western Conference semifinals versus the Rockets. Chris Paul misses 2 games. Chris Paul's team goes on to lose to the Rockets in 7 games. 2016, Chris Paul injures a hand. He misses another 2 games. He goes on to lose in the first round against the Blazers to that team. 2018, what we all know, the Rockets, which Chris Paul is now a part of, they are up 3-2 against the Golden State Warriors. Chris Paul misses 2 games. They go on to lose in 7 games to that Warriors team. The addition of Chris Paul, or rather the omission of Chris Paul, is what cost Chris Paul's team those games. But now the Suns are up 2 games against the Clippers without Chris Paul. Chris Paul comes back, and they're now 1-2 with Chris Paul. So what we realize is this. By omission, Chris Paul's teams have previously lost in the playoffs. Now it appears that by addition, Chris Paul's team may be losing in the playoffs. Either way, it is the fault of Chris Paul that his team would have lost in the playoffs. Previously by omission and most presently by addition. I think that if Chris Paul does take an L tonight and in this series, his legacy at least loses the growth it had to gain.
Did I just hit a time warp? Are we talking about Game 7? Did I miss Game 6? Because nothing can happen in Game 6 that affects Chris Paul's legacy, because the series can still be won in Game 7 in Phoenix. And as we know, if he wins the series, regardless of what's happened in the last few games, if he wins the series and they get to the finals, all will be forgotten. We've seen that time and time again. The second reason that I don't believe that tonight can impact his legacy is that it's already been established. He is one of the best point guards in the last decade.
Right.
He's also one of the best point guards in the last 20 years who is of average size and was not physically dominant enough to get his team to the finals if he indeed ends up losing this series. There's no shame in that. Steve Nash couldn't do it. Derrick Rose couldn't do it. The guys who did, Isaiah Thomas, Russell Westbrook, and Rajon Rondo, they were with very unique special teams and were able to get it done. So I don't look at this series changing his legacy. Yeah. To Acho's point, I do believe that if he gets to the finals, that he can elevate his legacy, that we may look at him in a different way than we do now. But for one reason or another, he has not been physically able, whether it's injury or simply matchups, he hasn't been able to complete the deal. So a very good, excellent, still probably Hall of Fame point guard, but is he in that upper echelon of point guards? No chance. And if he gets to the finals, it still remains to be seen if that would change things. But that's his opportunity if he gets there.
It's tough, man. I just really think it's almost cemented, like wet cement that is drying. Not fully dry yet, but it's certainly close to it. Because in success, the love is going to go to Booker and Ayton because those are the better players on the team. Chris Paul helps in the intangibles, but all the intangibles and contribution went out the door as soon as he came back and affected the team in a negative way. Then we went tangibles. We were like, dude, Chris Paul, your plus minus, we're better without you. We're talking about field goal percentage. The team is better without you. 3-point percentage, the team is better without you. Even at free throw line, the team is better without Chris Paul. So look, when you're talking about in success, they're going to look at those other guys. Then in failure, they're going to look dead at Chris Paul. So that's why I'm like, at 36 years old, Acho can't say, well, we don't know what his floor or ceiling is necessarily, because the dude is a future Hall of Famer who's a great. We're not taking him down from his status of greatness. We're just saying, can you really improve? The only way I can see this improving is that Chris Paul advances, and then Chris Paul takes the leadership role once again and has the production that goes with it, because he's lacking that right now in this moment. And then it's still going to be a shared experience, because is he going to outproduce Booker if they're going to win? Is he going to outproduce Ayton consistently if they're going to win? I just don't see how it adds up.
Yeah, Celis, I'm going to push back on that because there's one guy who was an MVP candidate this regular season. And if they win and they win in a game, if they don't win in Game 6, they win in a Game 7, they will have earned that home court advantage. And Chris Paul played a big role in that. I can't dismiss what the Phoenix Suns were prior to Chris Paul getting there. I can't dismiss all those intangibles. Yeah, from a statistical standpoint, Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton are carrying the weight. But who has created the opportunity for those statistics to be meaningful? I don't know that DeAndre Ayton and Devin Booker, that their numbers would be significantly different. The difference is that in terms of what they produced, which is wins and being in the conference finals. And you saw at the very beginning when Chris Paul suffered the shoulder injury, and he suddenly went out, and the Phoenix Suns looked around and said, whoa, wait a minute, where is he? And they fell apart within seconds. That is the intangible. That's the presence of Chris Paul. And the farther you go into the postseason, the more difficult the matchups become. I mean, let's be honest. You see who they've beaten to this point. They've played 3 wounded teams to get where they are. So that's a discount on the entire Phoenix Suns team, not necessarily Chris Paul. But I guarantee you, if they get to the finals, this will not be, oh, Devin Booker did it, DeAndre Ayton did it. The story will be Chris Paul.
Really, for me, Slick, Sell, it just comes down to, if you look at Chris Paul, his legacy, the only thing it's marred by is he gets hurt in the playoffs, not there for his team when his team needs him. It cost his team when he was a part of the Clippers. It cost his team when he was a part of the Rockets. But now Chris Paul gets hurt in the playoffs, and his team looking around like, we actually don't need you. We're better without you. He comes back, and now it costs his team when he shows up. I think you're going to look at Chris Paul, and one, you're going to look at him and say, well, you have the most points in the playoffs without a finals appearance. If they lose tonight, thus end up losing the series. And he's not necessarily in great company when it comes to overall legacies and what we say about the individuals. Carmelo Anthony, a great scorer, but we know he famously hasn't won. Playoff P in headlines right now for being mocked and being criticized too heavily. I think, no, his legacy can't get worse because we already conceded the fact that he may never win a chip. But to get this close and potentially be the reason that his team doesn't win or get to it, the NBA Finals, that could be scarring.
Yeah, see, Chris Paul's never been in this place before. He's never been in this territory before. The injury bug has always caught him at the wrong time. The calendar with the injuries is what always was his shortcoming. Now it's poor performance. And look, we can say it was the COVID and coming off of COVID, but that's going to be a minor detail in a greater legacy conversation, because now you're going to come back and say, hey, Chris Paul, you were shooting 51 from the field, 44 from 3, and you went out there and closed it 8 straight jumpers, mid-range elbow against Denver. You the one shut that down. You got sick, came back, 32%, 13% from 3, shooting 2 for 16 from 3, 19 for 60 from the field. And we were undefeated without you. And then you come back and we are not going to advance. Come on, Slick. You know that's going to fall heavily on the shoulders of CP3. Coming up, Charles Barkley does not want to hear stars whine about being criticized. That's right. We'll tell you if we're on Barkley or Paul George's side. That's next, though. Speak for yourself. Saturday, the last 2 World Series champs collide as the Dodgers take on the Nationals. Plus, the Red Sox battle the A's. Saturday, 7 Eastern, only on Fox. Check local listings for the game in your area. Let's get to my Clippers. Paul George, Figueroa fresh. He had a career playoff high 41 points Monday to save my Clippers from elimination. After the win, PG said he thinks he's criticized more than other stars. And his teammate DeMarcus Cousins called it trolling expletive. Bleep, bleep, bleep. Well, Charles Barkley does not want to hear any whining about criticism. Listen to Chuck.
These dudes, man.
What? What do you mean?
Every great player gets criticized.
Yes.
I don't hear that bull
crap.
Every great player. I have gotten criticized because I didn't win a championship. Michael Jordan, before he won the championship, he can't win. Shaq, Kobe, everybody's gotten criticized. This is false narrative. I'm hearing these jackasses on television talking about somebody gets scrutinized more than other people. Give me a freaking break. Every great player who's played until they win a championship get criticized. Paul George is a terrific player, but that goes with being a terrific player. And these other guys talk about he gets treated unfairly. Give me a freaking break.
Slick Rick is back with Acho. Whose side you on, Barkley or PG?
Man, I agree with Chuck. Y'all, I think of the quote, if you want to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. Sal, you often say criticism is the cost of praise. I will see that and raise you. Criticism is the cost of fame. You don't just have to be praised to be criticized, but as long as you are known, you will be criticized because those who know you have an opinion about you. And the more that know you, the more opinions there are to be cast about you. Thus, some will be hypercritical. Paul George is a superstar to some. He's an all-star, at least to all. And by being an all-star means that he's going to get that all type of constructive feedback. And sometimes it might not be constructive. It might just be feedback. Name a superstar, I can name the criticism. Luka Doncic, fatigued in the fourth quarter. Giannis, he can't shoot. Michael Jordan didn't win a chip without Scottie Pippen. LeBron James, anything he does. Name a superstar, and somebody can name the criticism. So, Paul George, you can't take the glory and take the praise, but not take the shame. Furthermore, the fact that we are criticizing you at all is a testament to the caliber of your abilities. Because remember, who really kicked all this conversation up was Boogie Cousins. We used to be hypercritical of Boogie Cousins. He had an attitude. He couldn't stay healthy. Boogie Cousins went to 6 consecutive All-Star games, if I'm not mistaken. We don't really talk about Boogie Cousins no more. We don't talk about Marcus Morris like that. We don't talk about Pat Bev like that. We talk about Paul George. We talk about Trae Young. We talk about Giannis. We talk about Chris Paul. We don't even talk about Devin Booker like that. Ooh. So the fact that we're talking about Paul George and criticizing Paul George is actually a testament to just how good Paul George is. And I think that's how he has to look at it.
Yeah, Acho, I certainly agree with all of that. And I not only agree with Charles's take, I agree with his passion about it because he's felt that firsthand about what it feels like to be a star and to be felt or criticized for coming up short. But it goes beyond that with Paul George. Because if Paul George, and by the way, I just received an email the other day that said that LeBron James, according to the algorithms, is the most hated player in the NBA. I don't have access to those algorithms, so I'm going to take their word for it. I dare say that that would fit anecdotally what I know. But I would say for the same with LeBron James and Paul George, in large part, they've earned it. It's not just a matter of, performances haven't always been there, but they've put themselves out there. That first thing you said about say nothing. Well, Paul George hasn't held true to that. After Damian Lillard hit the shot over him to knock the Oklahoma City Thunder and Paul George out of the playoffs, he said, that was a bad shot. And then he came back a little bit later and said, oh, you know what? I take it back. That was actually a good shot. When he was on Kevin Hart's podcast, he said, after joining the Clippers, no, we're not waiting for anything, man. We're going for it now. And then after they got eliminated in the bubble, we get this tweet out there, which was a real head scratcher. Okay, so now that you didn't get it done, you actually were never attempting to get it done. That kind of inconsistency is what adds fuel to the fire when you're being criticized. You're not having the playoff performances that people expect from you because of your talent and because you gave yourself the nickname Playoff P and you actually had slides custom made that said Playoff P on them. Ooh. You're wearing that on your sleeve. And now when you don't demonstrate that you are Playoff P and you're criticized for it, you're being more criticized than others? Well, yeah, because you asked for it.
I'm with you guys to a degree, to a point, and I'm with Barkley certainly because I just love Charles Barkley. God could say his ABCs and just make me crack up. I just love how he breaks it down. Here's the thing, though. I guess I'm one of them jackasses because he said people out there are trying to defend Paul George and defend guys who get criticized, and I'm going to defend him. Look. I don't need a backhanded compliment that says, hey, criticism is the cost of praise, even though it's one of my favorite sayings. Acho revisited that and actually said, hey, you don't even got to be someone who's praiseworthy. Just be someone who's famous. I just say if you exist in this world, look, remember when you were 8, 10, 12 years old? People were clowning me then. That's criticism. We just called it a different thing. So I understand all of that. But don't do this. Let's draw the line between criticism and ridicule. And that's the problem I have with this playoff P, pandemic P, way off P. Because criticism is one thing. Luka Doncic, he tires in the fourth quarter. Luka Doncic, you're not so great with coaches and teammates. That's it. Criticism, criticism, criticism. I don't hear the ridicule there. So criticism is tethered to your greatness. And that's fine, because you're so damn great, we're going to have that much more criticism for you. They're going to go hand in hand. But when you break that tether, when you cut that rope, and all of a sudden you're just out there bouncing around, ridiculing somebody who still is great, that's when I have a problem. So I hear you, Barkley, to a large degree, but I also hear with playoff P, some star, whatever y'all want to say, and ridicule them about criticism. I stay there, not ridicule.
Here's the thing, though, Sel. If you remember in high school, I don't know if they did this at your high schools or middle schools, et cetera, but people would take the whole, sheet of paper and write, "hit me on the back," and then they just tape it to your back, and hopefully you don't notice. Then people would come up hitting you and whatnot, and you're like, "Hey, why you hitting me?" And then they're like, "Hey, you got a sign on your back."
Right.
Paul George essentially broke the sign, put it on his back, taped it there, and is now looking at us wondering why we doing that to him. 2018, to Slick Rick's point, when he was asked about Donovan Mitchell and guarding Donovan Mitchell's rookie year, Paul George said, "Oh, y'all ain't met playoff P yet?" The reporters are like, who's playoff P? At that point in time, Carmelo Anthony, a few days later, as the story has it, is like, "Wait a second, I thought y'all gave him that nickname." And he's like, "Nah, Paul George named him himself." Later on at the podium, after, I believe, playoff P, who is now playoff P, goes and shoots poor from the field goal line. They lose a game to the Jazz. Carmelo Anthony sitting at the same podium when playoff P is asked about his performance. Melo says under his breath, "You can't take it back now." Because even his own teammate, Carmelo Anthony, was like, "Hey, big dog, you gave yourself this nickname. You set yourself up for this. You set yourself up for the mockery or the ridicule, if you will." Once you give yourself a nickname, you now give yourself the opportunity to get clowned for said nickname. I don't recall us ridiculing Paul George prior to the playoff P mantra. I don't recall Paul George getting ridiculed prior to 2018. It was after 2018, after playoff P, that he gets ridiculed, if you will. And we only ridicule him around playoff P. Pandemic P, way off P. So that's the only thing we ridicule him around is nicknames. Some stars. We only ridicule him around a name, but he started off with the names.
Ooh.
That's really well said, Acho, because, and I've got receipts here in terms of where the dividing line was, because the reality is Paul George didn't show up in pivotal elimination games prior to naming himself playoff P. And while there might have been some criticism, not to the level now, not getting clowned the way he is now. So can I have my second full screen to break this down? We've got going back to 2013, where elimination game, what does he give us? Not enough. You can go through it step by step. All of these are elimination games or strung out throughout his career. And in these elimination games, at times where, if you're going to call yourself playoff P, an elimination game is where you show up. It's not in game 2. It's not in game 5 of a 7 game. It is the elimination game, ultimately. And that's where Paul George has come up the shortest, consistently. Now, he has had his performances, his strong performances. We've had it this year. But he's had more of the other ones than that. And so this idea that he criticized more, yeah, because I don't know that I could find another star who has been as inconsistent and up and down as he is. Again, to your point, Marcellus, and you, Acho, he's put himself on this platform. He's given himself that by his talent, but he's also taken the spotlight and said, "I want it on me." Well, if you're going to have it on you, then we're not just going to talk about the good times. We're going to talk about the times that you come up short. And he's had more of those in big games than he has otherwise.
Yeah, but let's get nuanced up here. And I know that I'm going to lose most people, and here comes the criticism for me. But I'll take it because I understand what this game's about. Since you give yourself a nickname does not mean it's a license to ill about that person and their performances. Let's be real about this. I'm going to go to the late, great Kobe Bryant, who gave himself a nickname. Actually stole a nickname. Forget giving himself a nickname. DeAnthony Thomas was out here, local kid from Crenshaw High School, killing it. Black Mamba. All of a sudden, Kobe heard that, and he was like, ain't nobody heard about this dude like that. They all know me. I'm the Black Mamba. Okay. I ain't mad at how that all played out. Here's the thing. The last 4 years for the late, great Kobe Bryant, did y'all see playoff appearances? Anybody? Everybody? Nobody? No? But we didn't use that as a license to ill. And I understand. Acho doesn't like equity. I do. He already had 5 rings, so people probably like, we can't talk about Kobe. But Paul George doesn't have any rings. But Paul George has insane playoff performances while still hearing about Pandemic P. So which context do we matter? Does matter. If it's just if you got rings, you can do whatever you want. No, that's not the case because Shaq just said, yeah, it's a part of the territory. Charles Barkley referenced Kobe Bryant. I'm just trying to get the context straight before I know when is there a license to ill on someone when you take criticism and turn it into ridicule. Because if you want to look at the performances, Paul George is one of 3 players over the last 40 seasons to average what he's averaging right now, 27, 9, and 5. First player in NBA history to have 40, 13, and 6 while shooting 75%. Is that room for criticism? Or as we are seeing right now, room for ridicule. Coming up, the top NFL head coaches list was revealed. Mike Tomlin is not in the top 5. What? Got a lot to say about that next on Speak For Yourself. Watch it, Speak For Yourself. Marcel Wiley, Emmanuel, Immaculate, Emmy, Acho. Let's get to the NFL. Andy Reid is the top NFL head coach heading into this season, according to CBS Sports, who used past performances and future outlook as a criteria. Remember that, y'all. They say Reid's connection with Patrick Mahomes makes him a perennial candidate to win the Super Bowl again, except last year. Bill Belichick came in second based on his team's drop-off, post Tom Brady. Take a look at the top 10. 7 of the head coaches have won Super Bowls. And Sean McDermott, my Buffalo Bills, and Matt LaFleur are the only ones who have not been to the big game. So, Acho, what's your biggest issue with the NFL head coaching rank?
Man, where's Scottie Pippen at when I need him to make this about race?
Need some, you need some burgers?
No, my biggest issue is Mike Tomlin. How he gonna sit at 10? Somebody got to make that make sense. Mike Tomlin is sitting behind coaches who haven't won Super Bowls, coaches who haven't been to Super Bowls, coaches who have barely made playoff appearances. I'm talking about Matt LaFleur. I'm talking about Sean McDermott and even Sean McVay, who is yet to win a Super Bowl. I just don't get how you can put Mike Tomlin, who has the record for most consecutive seasons to start your career without a losing season, that being 14. I don't get how he don't get respect. And Mike Tomlin truly isn't just one of the greatest coaches present day. He's one of the greatest coaches in NFL history. As far as winning percentage goes, the only coach that is in the top 10 that is not in the Hall of Fame where Mike Tomlin lies is Bill Belichick. Well, Mike Tomlin bound to lie is Bill Belichick as far as winning percentage rankings. Mike Tomlin, really the whole list is completely undermined when I look at Mike Tomlin where he ranks. Because how I look at it, Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, they are top 2, 1 and 2. Then you have Mike Tomlin, for me, is at 3.
Yes.
Then you have the likes of John Harbaugh, the likes of Pete Carroll, the likes of Sean Payton, and then all them other cats that haven't won Super Bowls. Bruce Arians at number 7, and the rest of them cats that haven't won Super Bowls. So that's my biggest point of contention where Mike Tomlin ranks.
Yeah, my biggest issue with the coaching rankings is simple. The way they rank them. It's just the order. What the hell is this order? Let me just give it to you simple. Bill Belichick, number 1. Andy Reid, you're number 2. Mike Tomlin, you're number 3. Pete Carroll, you're number 4. John Harbaugh, you're number 5. Sean Payton, number 6. Sean McVay, 7. Bruce Arians, you're 8. Yep, I said it. 9, McDermott, 10, LaFleur. But this wasn't a list about coaching. This was a list about what kind of quarterback you got going forward. And they penalized Mike Tomlin because they were like, you got Big Ben. Oh, brother, we're going to drop you almost out the top 10 for having Big Ben. But why they put Matt LaFleur up in there? He got Jordan Love. He ain't got Aaron Rodgers right now. You better stop. This is a funny list. Lists they disturb me. They perturb me. They irritate me. They remind me of the barbershop. 4 hours, got to make an appointment. $100 later, I'm listening to this dude talk about his ex-girlfriend. I hate all of that. I'm sorry. And this is just one of those lists that's keeping me in the barbershop too damn long. That's why I got the baldy with the Bic at the crib. I'm looking at this situation. What the? Andy Reid is not the best. Just a few months ago before, let me not go there. A year. Let me give him some grace. A year. They were talking about Hawaiian shirts, the most likable guy. Win one for Andy. Win one for Andy is not the best coach in the NFL. The best coach in the NFL is wearing that hood, is wearing that hoodie, is just sitting there like y'all could exaggerate my demise and downfall if you won't. Pray for my downfall, but it's Bill Belichick. So as soon as I saw it, number one, it wasn't Bill Belichick, I knew where this list was taking me, back to the barbershop where I don't want to go. Got to bring in Fox NFL analyst Bucky Brooks. So Bucky, what's your biggest issue with the NFL head coaching rankings?
Hey, following Acho, I think Mike Tomlin being down at the bottom of the list to me is crazy. The fact that he's barely a top 10 coach when he is an all-timer. He is a Hall of Famer right in front of our eyes. You have to talk about him in the same breath that you talk about George Halas, Don Shula, Bill Belichick, some of the greats. There have only been 6 coaches that have won 200 games. He already has 145 wins in this league. No losing seasons. He's been to one Super Bowl and won it, been to another and lost it. Some of these other guys on the list don't deserve to be in front of Mike Tomlin. My other contention will be this. Kyle Shanahan is right behind Mike Tomlin. Yet I see some of his disciples are listed ahead of him. Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur. Do we really believe that if we put Kyle Shanahan in Green Bay, that Kyle Shanahan wouldn't exceed the number of wins that Matt LaFleur had based on his offensive ingenuity? What about Sean McVay? The same Sean McVay who hasn't won a Super Bowl, who is disgruntled with his quarterback, moved on from his quarterback, and all of these guys are running Kyle Shanahan's system or Mike Shanahan's system, his dad. And so I believe that even with record, because I believe we need to be able to look beyond what the record says when it comes to coaching greatness, Kyle Shanahan is a great. He is the stuff that he has done from an offensive standpoint, one day will make him a legend. I believe he deserves more flowers than some of the other guys that are on the list.
The other thing, Bucky, because I agree with every iota of what you just said, if you are ranking Bill Belichick number 2, then you're clearly weighing what he has done previously to keep him at number 2, because you're not looking at Cam Newton and ranking Cam Newton above Lamar Jackson or ranking him above Josh Allen. No slight. I'm actually just being serious now. So based upon the logic of looking at what a coach has done, if Bill Belichick is 2, then that instantly brings Tomlin up. Because if you're telling me, well, Tomlin is ranked low because of Big Ben, then in the same sentence, you would have to rank Bill Belichick low because of Cam. But even more than that is really, Bucky, what you said of what makes Matt LaFleur greater than Mike Tomlin?
I got you.
Matt LaFleur has gone to 2 championship games, lost both of the championship games, and is playing with the greatest quarterback that's currently playing right now in Aaron Rodgers because he just won the MVP. If you got Aaron Rodgers on your team, I would hope you could make it to the playoffs and win a playoff game or 2. So that is my biggest gripe. And also, Sean McDermott, if we being real, Sean McDermott shouldn't be ahead of Sean McVay. Sean McDermott shouldn't be ahead of Pete Carroll. Sean McDermott absolutely shouldn't be ahead of Bruce Arians. So Sean McDermott too high, Mike Tomlin too low. Those are some of the biggest issues.
Yeah, look, I think the thing about Sean McDermott, I think Sean McDermott should be in the top 10. I think he's done a great job in Buffalo. My condition would be Mike Tomlin being up there. I think what's interesting is how we view this just from an offensive standpoint. Yeah, there are offensive coaches in the league, but I think some of this is reputation preceding the result. We talked about Sean McVay being boy wizard, boy wonder because of his offensive genius. We've talked about Matt LaFleur and the stuff that he's done in Green Bay, but part of that is driven by the quarterback. I just would like to think that if we're going to make these lists, let's make sure we put some meat behind it. Let's make sure that we see a long track record of consistency and success. I just don't know if some of these guys that are listed in the top 10 are really those dudes when it comes down to it.
Oh, man. Well, I gotta push back a little bit, Bucky, because you can't ask a list to rank and then say, oh, but make sure it respects longevity if a coach has only been coaching for a couple years. Matt LaFleur, I agree. He shouldn't be that damn high. However, he does have the highest win percentage of everyone. Fewest games, obviously, but highest win percentage. So what do you do with him? You just keep him off the list because he's only been there a couple years, or you say, Kind of been some good couple years so far. Higher than Bill Belichick. So that's where I think the rub is. Look, I'm going to talk about this list like I talk about with student athletes. I go to high schools and speak to the student athletes. I'm like, look, y'all want to go to the proper college. All right, here's a formula. You don't have to subscribe to it, but this is what you should do. I want you to look at their athletic program and find out what they're ranked in the AP poll or BCS of your sport. All right? Then I want you to look at their U.S. News and World Report academic ranking, okay? Now add those two numbers up. Now do that for every single college. And then when you're done with that, take the score of the lowest one, and that's the school you should go to. Now, most of the kids don't like what that says. They're like, I don't want to go to that school. I was like, well, that's the best situation for you. Now, let me do that same kind of math and logic on this situation. Bill Belichick is number 2 in win percentage and been coaching forever. Bill Belichick is number 1 in Super Bowl appearances and obviously number 1 in Super Bowl wins. 1-1-2. No one else is on this list that high. So damn, list, stop overthinking it. Take your butt to the best school. Take yourself to the best coach. It's Bill Belichick. We all know the great. Coming up, what does Giannis' injury mean for the Bucks' title hopes? Uh-oh, full name time, Acho. We'll answer that next on Speak for Yourself.
Let's get back to the Eastern Conference Finals. Giannis, hey. He suffered a hyperextended left knee in the third quarter last night and is expected to have imaging done today. The Hawks tied up the series 2-2, and Game 5 is tomorrow in Milwaukee. Had to bring Slick Rick back for this one. But, Sal, what does my guy Giannis Antetokounmpo, what does the injury mean for the Bucks' title hopes?
Oh, their title hopes, Ugo. Their title hopes, they gotta go. They gotta go. Look, they weren't gonna win with Giannis. And
Don't start there. Don't start
there.
And there.
Good. Wake up.
There.
It's half the show. It's time to go. You go. This team wasn't going to win with Giannis, and they certainly not going to win without Giannis. Let's just be real. Over the last 3 seasons, the Bucks with Giannis, highest win percentage of the top 115 NBA players in terms of games played. The big dogs. 730 win percentage. Have they won yet? Okay, so now you're going to say, add Drew Holiday, that was going to do it. They've had some injuries of late. Plus, they have some issues on this team. Let me just give it to you simple. Sometimes I just don't even need to go out there and give you an opinion. Let me just kill you with these facts. Still the worst three-point shooting team in the playoffs, worst free throw shooting team in the playoffs, most turnovers per game among teams remaining in the playoffs, and they give up the second most threes to a team in the playoffs. Is not the formula for success, and that's with Giannis. So, nah, I'm sorry he's hurt. I saw it when it happened. I knew he hyperextended that knee. I've done that before. Ouch. But at the same time, my first thought, this is the fan in me, was like, damn, why he ain't do that against Brooklyn? Because Brooklyn could have advanced. That's a real team coming out the East, and we could have really seen a good team in the finals. But that was the fan in me. The analyst in me is saying, man, this team wasn't going anywhere with Giannis in terms of winning the championship. Whoever comes out the West is the best. Let's just be real about it. It rhymes and it's true. The best is in the West. Whichever team that is. But with Giannis or without Giannis, same fate for them. They're going to fall short.
Acho, I have a feeling that this is not going to be a good segment for you. But then again, you've been giving me a craving for Bubblicious the entire show. So in one way, you might deserve it just a little bit. No, the injury does nothing as far as their title hopes are concerned because, as Marcellus eloquently stated, I didn't believe that they were going to win it with or without him. Now, without him, they may not even make the finals, even if Trae Young doesn't come back and play for the Hawks, based on what we saw in the last game by the Bucks. The bigger concern here, though, I told you, Acho, this is not going to be good for you, is not what it does for their title hopes this year, but what it does for their title hopes moving forward. Because coming into the season, there were 97 incidents of ACL injuries. And I say torn ACLs incidents because some of them happened to the same player twice, Danny Manning, Jabari Parker being examples. But if you go down that list, there are any number of players who have come back and they've had good careers, but you can't look at any of them and say, that guy led his team to a title. Zach LaVine tore his ACL. He's come back. It wasn't an all-star before. He is an all-star now. But we got Kristaps Porzingis right now. Clearly not the same player since he tore his ACL. That is more common than not. That guys come back and they can continue their career and they can be very good. But to be in that top echelon where Giannis has put himself, that is the question. Now, we haven't determined that it's a torn ACL yet, but by all indications, this is a pretty severe injury. And I'm just saying, if that is the case, then this is not just a downer for right now. This is looking forward, puts a big question mark on in terms of what Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks are truly capable of doing and whether they will ever reach their potential.
Okay, first and foremost, Slick and Sel, let's clarify something.
What?
Firstly, the Bucks were definitely going to the title with Giannis. We know that. I know that. We are going to clarify that. We're not going to sit here and lie on this man's name. Secondly, Slick, I rebuke any ACL injury.
Before you get to the second one, can you give me the first, the first, just the presumption that they were going to win if Giannis hadn't hurt himself?
I got a stat here.
They were going to beat the Hawks, people.
What they were
going to beat? Yes. You saw how they dismantled the Hawks game 3 with Giannis before game 4. You saw how they dismantled the Hawks in game 3. They was going to beat the Hawks. We know that. Secondly, Slick, because what's more important and most important is me rebuking this ACL injury.
Lord.
Right now, rebuke that.
You're using rebuke wrong.
Can't say it here.
Grandma.
But in all honesty, man, what this means for the Bucks, it's a wrap. If Giannis doesn't come back, Giannis is a conduit for this team's success. Giannis is a conduit for what makes this team go. Giannis, he leads the team in the points responsible for. He leads the team in points scored. He leads the team in rebounds. I believe he's second or so on the team in assists. Giannis is the driving factor behind this Bucks team. When the Bucks needed a basket mostly in the playoffs, we all remember that Game 7 against the Nets. It wasn't Middleton. It wasn't Drew Holiday. It was Giannis who said, you know what? I'm going to do this, and I have to do it by myself. He's the one that got them that bucket that changed the course of the game. But let's get down to the real. Because y'all know Giannis, middle name Ugo. Y'all know where Giannis really, where that blood hails from. I must remind you all, did y'all see X-Men? In X-Men, must I remind y'all, they had to go get that adamantium, that stuff that was found in Wolverine that really held the skeletal to the metal in his system. And where do they go to find the adamantium? They went to Nigeria.
Wakanda?
No, they went to Nigeria. Now, they went to Wakanda to find the vibranium somewhere Africa adjacent.
They went to Wakanda.
Giannis Ugo Adetumbo, he just needs to go back to Nigeria, find whatever they found for X-Man. Go to Wakanda somewhere and heal up.
Okay.
So they can still fear the deer. Because without Giannis, they ain't fearing nobody.
We filming movies up here on this studio lot now. That's where we are now. Get him straight.
Yeah. Marcellus, do you get the sense that Acho thinks that we're either dogs or squirrels, and if he has enough shiny objects to distract us from what we're actually seeing here? Look,
they're done.
The reality is that Giannis's athleticism is the biggest part of his game. What does he do more than what does he rely on more than anything else? It's that going to the left, pivoting off of that left leg, spinning back to the right and finishing. How many times do we see him do that? Reminds me a lot of Derrick Rose in the same way, the explosive movements being such a critical part of his game. Now, Derrick Rose has come back and he has played and played well and honorably, but has he ever been the Derrick Rose that we saw pre-injury? No, he has not been. And so, I hope this is just a hyperextension.
Well,
there are no ligaments torn, and that Giannis is going to be
Let me interrupt
better
you, Slick.
sooner
Let me
rather than
interrupt
later.
you.
But
let me do my job, Slick, because Woj is just reporting that Giannis is showing no structural damage. The ligaments are intact. We don't know what that means in terms of timetable, but Ugo went to Nigeria.
Yes. He didn't have to go to Nigeria.
Come on, Acho, how you feel right now?
Look, first and foremost, we heard the report from the producers right after I rebuked that ACL injury.
Point.
So that rebuking worked.
You refuted it. You refuted it. You didn't rebuke it. I rebuked.
That's the first thing that happened. The second thing, if there's no structural damage, because Sal, you know this better than I, but we all know this together, you can have a freak out knee injury. You can hyperextend your knee, but not actually tear any ligaments, which is now being reported that Giannis did not do, which is why he was probably able to walk off on his own power. If Giannis is able to come back, maybe not clearly by Game 5, but by Game 7, if the Bucks can get it to 7, I do think that if Giannis is back, he will be healthy enough to push the Bucks over the limit. Because it's not just about what happens with Giannis being healthy. If he's healthy and they still lose, it's irrelevant. Now, is he healthy enough to make an impact? And if there is no structural damage, then still it's about swelling and it's about confidence. And if Giannis is on the court, I trust the Bucks team. Freud dominated the Hawks team for 2 games.
Freud talked. You rebuked it. God listened. You start talking that real. Freud was listening too. You heard it. The Hawks came out your mouth. Look, let's talk about this injury like you just said. Pain, swelling, strength. Trust, that's the most important part. To get all that within a week or so span, when you are already healthy, down to this team 10 points before the injury, you blink, y'all down 25, and it's a wrap. I think Atlanta has your number because as he's trying to grow back in that confidence, if he plays at all, we don't know because I've had situations where football's a little different. You got to plow through it. But in basketball, even with no structural damage, doesn't mean he's okay. Doesn't mean he's still Giannis. It's going to be interesting to see how he returns. Speaking of this series, Game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals is featured on the free-to-play Fox Bet Super 6 app. Download the app and answer 6 questions about tomorrow's game for your shot to win $1,000, 1KK. Coming up, Luka Doncic is being called challenging and irritable. We'll tell you if stars should want to play in Dallas. That's next on Speak for Yourself. Oh, the Mavericks made a lot of changes recently, but they still have their superstar, Luka Doncic. However, a report says players might not be excited to play with Luka. Really? The report called him difficult and challenging, adding, quote, he's barking at his teammates. He's barking at the officials. He's always barking about something. He can really be an irritable guy. Wow. Slick Rick is back with us, but Acho, should stars want to play with Luka Doncic?
Absolutely not. Stars shouldn't. Regular players, no question about it. Play with Luka. He's a star player. Seems like you'll get a lot of attention. But if you're a star, you shouldn't want to play with Luka because if you're a star, you should only humble yourself for the sake of winning. Steph Curry, Kevin Durant shows up. I have to humble myself for the sake of winning. If you're a star player, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James shows up. I got to humble myself for the sake of winning. Dwayne Wade, LeBron James shows up. I have to humble myself for the sake of winning. But if you're a star and you humble yourself for no reason, it's just going to lead to a split up. Paul George, he shows up in OKC, got to humble himself to Russ. They don't win. They split. Russ shows up to Houston, got to humble himself for Harden. They don't win. They split. Star players that show up and try to humble themselves and don't win, it doesn't work out. And what Luka has shown us thus far, as much as I love Luka, he hasn't been able to get the job done. Hasn't been able to beat the Clippers last year, hasn't been able to beat the Clippers this year, and obviously first year did not make the playoffs. So if I'm a star, I'm not trying to go humble myself and have to dim my light just for the sake of Luka getting his. We always think about Luka and how he basically averages a triple-double, and I thought, that's always a great thing. It was either you, Slick, or Broussard, or another analyst that came on this show and said, but remember, players like that, they always have the ball. So either they're going to take the shot or they're going to dictate the person that takes the shot. Not all assists are created equal. When I think about playing with Luka, I almost think of it as playing with Russell Westbrook. They are a superstar, going to get a lot of attention, probably going to win an MVP, if not multiple. But if you are a star, you don't want to play with the guy who's going to hold on to the ball the entirety of the 24-second shot clock and maybe dish it to you with 3 seconds left to shoot up a prayer or try to create a shot off 1 or 2 dribbles. A star shouldn't want to play with Luka, but any other players, they should.
Yeah, it actually gets worse because not only, and to your point, Luka Doncic led the league in usage rate. I believe that he led the league in the playoffs in usage rate. The ball is always in his hands, but it's also the LeBron James effect in that not only are you joining a guy and you're going to be the second banana by virtue of that, but if you win, it's going to be because of him. And if you lose, it's going to be because of you. We've seen that to this point with Luka Doncic. He has not received nearly the amount of criticism that he deserves for the Dallas Mavericks falling short. And by virtue of all the moves that Mark Cuban has made, he moved on from his GM. He moved on from his head coach. It is being built around Luka Doncic. And to your point, Acho, guys would make the sacrifice to play with LeBron once they knew that they could win a ring. And even then, it was still, if you look, guys had opportunities. Free agents had opportunities to go play with LeBron. And whether it was competitively to say, now, I don't want to win rings with LeBron, I want to win my own ring, or it was knowing the equation, if we win, it's going to be because of him. And if we lose, it's going to be because of me. I might as well go someplace else where I'm going to get more credit for getting it done. That is what Luka Doncic faces right now on that front. As for the reports in terms of not, being difficult and all of that, look, I've heard that. I've been hearing that. But I can't name you a star that has high expectations, high pressure on him, plays at a high level and expects the same from his teammates that doesn't have that criticism. We talked about Chris Paul. That's been said about him his entire career as well. So it comes with the territory.
Yeah, it does. And that's why stars should want to play with Luka Doncic. Think about it. So what? He's quirky. That's all I heard. He's different. He's weird. Or he's demanding. Whatever you want to call it. What genius, what star isn't? Or, more importantly, what regular person isn't? I mean, it's so funny because none of us are perfect that we just really are looking for what we're comfortable with. Because I'm a weirdo, and I like being a weirdo. And I got a lot of friends and a few best friends that are weirdos, too, in different ways. I chose a weirdo, but I ain't going to tell you how weird. But the point is, we all got our ways. This is just some high school stuff where your reputation precedes you. You know why it precedes you? Because people who are talking out there whispering and saying, you know who Luka is? You know what Luka is? I don't listen to that. I hate when people always try to give you that fair shot, that warning. Hey, if you're going to meet so-and-so, let me just tell you this. Let me just tell you that. How you know our weirds don't match each other? How do you know that what he does doesn't fit perfectly with what I do? You talk about a catch-and-shoot star out there, a Bradley Beal, somebody who just go out there. I don't need to handle the ball all like that. Just give me the rock, and then I'm going to go shoot it. Those grenades you throw me late in the shot clock. You never know how it plays out. Because in life, it's Tetris, damn it, and it ain't all bars and cubes. Sometimes you get the little jagged one, and you got to make it fit. So if I'm a star, I'm going to make sure that I don't conflate a Luka issue with a Dallas problem. Because since 2011, they have not won a playoff series. And I think that's what's happening right here. We're looking at Luka, seeing him being demanding. Because, look, he don't want to play with Kristaps Porzingis, not because Kristaps and him don't like each other, because Kristaps fell off. In part, maybe because of Luka. You went from 20 points a game to 13. You got hurt. You ain't the same dude, bruh. So don't be coming at me. And why should I expect less? Because I know I'm great. I'm doing my part. So I don't look at Luka in any damning light. I look at him as a guy who's doing amazing already in his career, who's just looking to be surrounded by something as amazing as well.
Here's the thing, though, Sel, and I listen to Sel when he talks. And in listening to your take, I could see why it was created as it was, but I could also see the air in it. Like, I don't know if you heard Marcellus when he said this. He said, I have a few best friends.
Yeah.
How that possible? You got a best friend. You may have a few friends, but you can't have a few best friends.
I'm going to explain that.
This is the same logic that Scottie Pippen fell under, which is why he is now on a slander tour. Because Michael Jordan was probably like, yeah, Scottie, you my best friend. Then he went to others like, yeah, you my best friend. Then he went to others like, hey, that's my best friend. Go best friend, go best friend. That's my best friend. And the problem is, Sel, Luka has his sidekicks, Kristaps thinking, hey, dog, you my number two. Nah, Hardaway, you really my number two. Hey, Finney Smith, Jr., you really my number 2. And you can't be a superstar playing with another superstar that you don't trust. And the fact of the matter is, Slick Rick hit it on the head on his first take, which is, if the Mavs win, all praise be to Luka. But when they lose, yeah, but Kristaps fell off, man. I mean, Kristaps ain't the same dude. Rick Carlisle, I know he the only one that brought us our only chip, but he really ain't like that either. Donnie Nelson, really, honestly, he got to go too. But me, Luka, I'm without fault, even though I only shot 27% from the field in the fourth quarter during the course of the series in which we lost. Luka's a dude. But we've seen great players before win early, too, without causing drama. Dwayne Wade, he was a dude, 3rd year in the league. He won a chip. LeBron James, he was a dude, 4th year in the league. He went to a chip without help. We've seen great players win without blowing up entire organizations. Luka may still win. I believe he will. But he's definitely going to win and leave a whole pile of dust on the way to do it.
All right, so I have to put a timestamp on this because what I'm saying is that stars shouldn't go play with Luka Doncic or want to play with Luka Doncic right now.
Correct.
I believe that bringing Jason Kidd in, another former point guard, ball-dominant guy, but also very capable of leading a team and getting a lot of guys involved, that he's going to be a big benefit to Luka. And let's not also ignore the fact that he's coming from a different culture, and he's got to demonstrate that he's capable of playing in a game that is still very Americanized. It's a little more Euro than it's been, but still Americanized, and there's a certain attitude and approach that you need to fit in and get along and bring guys along. The one reason why I say right now is because Doncic, much like LeBron James, for being a superstar, has demonstrated the willingness and the ability to share the ball and share the ball in meaningful situations. When he's getting double-teamed in the fourth quarter, he's willing to give it up to Tim Hardaway and to Finney Smith and to Kristaps Porzingis. So I appreciate that in that Doncic is very willing, in spite of his supreme belief in himself, he is willing to give the ball up if it means that somebody else has a better shot.
Yeah, he's willing to give the ball up if he got somebody he thinks that can do something with the ball when he gives it up. It's just that simple. Oh, Acho, how dare you try to take slander to my best friends. It's funny, we can have associates. We can have friends.
You said best.
No, I didn't say the best. I said best friends. It's a level. Let me give you this level. My sister's my first best friend because I was born into a household with her, and she's my best friend. Now, she can't get off the board because, shoot, she was forced on me, and I love her. Now, I'm in kindergarten. Jabari shows up. Damn it. I've been knowing Jabari for 41 years. Then, freshman year, Matt Lindsay, my dog Linzoni. Man, come on. Now I got my sister forced on me, Jabari from kindergarten, and I got my boy Matt. And then I got Rory. But let me get it to you. It ain't to explain myself. It's to poke holes at what you said. Luka ain't got no best friends. Porzingis? That ain't Tiki. That ain't Jabari. Hardaway Jr. Finney Smith. Those are the names coming out your mouth talking about those could be his best friends. They got trust issues because he don't trust how good they can play the game. I trust my best friends.
Real quick, though, Sam. Yes, Slick, this is actually a more important conversation than we had about this.
All right, let's try this.
Yesterday, Sal said that you can't use the words very unique.
No,
because something unique is already unique. It can't be very unique. So how can you have best friends? Because best is already clarifying that it's singular. They are the best. You can't have multiple bests. There is one best.
I'll take that. So you gonna make me pick on national TV who's my best friend?
Right here, right now.
Marcellus Swally, you know I'm selfish. I love me. The God in me, inner power. That's me. I love myself more than anybody. All right, Slick Rick, that's it. Coming up, CP3 first playoff fee. Hey, my casket is customized for one. It's only me. Wow. I'll tell you who's under more pressure tonight. That's next. So speak for yourself.
Chris Paul can earn his first trip to the NBA Finals if. It's a big if. The Suns can beat the Clippers tonight. CP3 struggled from the field in Game 5, while Paul George shined with a career playoff high 41 points to help Marcellus's Clippers fend off elimination. So, Sal, who's under more pressure tonight? CP3 or PG-13?
Who's all these numbers? Who the hell?
All these acronyms. Chris Paul or Paul George?
You know you're famous when they got to do that to your name. Either one word or acronyms or numbers. Which number has 36 in their name. CP36, because he's 36 years old. That means, hey, bro, you ain't got that many more shots at this, bro. And this is so messed up because I thought CP3 found his way. I still love that dude in terms of him being a former Clipper and him just being a great dude. But, man, I just see right now that his legacy just got tangled up in a web because he was the contributing factor, as you would say, limiting contributing factor to their success, except now he may be that same person who has that negative impact on their season. So it's on Chris Paul. Paul George is, God, when people do this and finally rub their eyes and look at Paul George correctly with LASIK surgery and look at his performances and his real numbers and stop trying to joke, because this society is about memes and just ridicule. As soon as I can find something about you, Acho, I run with it, and it's just the funniest thing. How many times did you hear somebody from last year, when you first did your uncomfortable conversation, to this moment, say a joke with uncomfortable in it? Exactly, because you just gave yourself an opportunity to be out there and shot down or hit down like the piñata. So I'm not even worried about pandemic. Oh, I'm sorry, Paul George. I'm not sorry, a playoff P. I'm sorry, some star. I'm not worried about that because the clarity's going to come when you look at his performances. Chris Paul, too old to be doing this still, man. It's on CP3.
I agree with you. Chris Paul's under more pressure, and it really doesn't matter how you look at it. I know you don't view pressure as someone who has more to lose because they have more, thus they have more to lose.
Yeah.
But even if you look at it as someone who has more to gain, Chris Paul both has more to lose and he has more to gain. Thus, to me, he has more pressure. He has more to lose, obviously, because we know the whole legacy mantra right now.
There.
He gets hurt, he gets hurt, he gets hurt. Because he gets hurt, he costs his team chips in the playoffs. But also he has more to gain because he's played longer and he doesn't have a chip. And Chris Paul is the one who could be cemented in the top 5 at his position of all time. Paul George is a superstar, but I don't think Paul George can do anything to become one of the top 5 shooting guards, the top 5 small forwards of all time. It's just too late in his career, and what would have been an earlier peak in his career, he has a devastating leg injury. So CP3 got more to gain. CP3 got more to lose. And CP3, if we're being real to Sel's point, Paul George wouldn't surprise us if he failed or choked, if you will. Because we shoot off all the jokes as it is. There's a reason he's been called Pandemic P. Reason he's been called Way Off P. Reason I called him a some star. So Paul George, we've come accustomed to like, oh, well, he went 5 for 20 today. It's just Paul George again. He went 5 for 20 in Game 4. So that's not surprising. But Chris Paul, the only reason your teams have typically fallen short is because you got hurt. Not because you didn't ball, but because you got hurt. You healthy right now, at least in perception. We don't know the lingering effects of COVID, but you on the court, so you healthy. If you still go out there and your team falls short while you were healthy, now it's not that you got hurt. Now it's just you not that dude.
Dog, you got us signed, you got us a tour, you got us a hit album. Then you go away, and we produce some more hits. Then you come back, and we start to fall off. You know who they looking at. That's Chris Paul in that equation. It's unfortunate. I don't have an analogy. I don't have something that's analogous in this one. But it reminds me a little bit because Chris Paul and Shaquille O'Neal when he was with Miami. Shaquille O'Neal walked to Miami with 3 rings, so it's hard to imagine this. But I remember when Shaq won that ring, did that really change how we thought of Shaq? All it did was give him a punch on Kobe. That was it, right? So if I see CP3 to go from 0 to 1 is obviously elite. But then are we going to really give him his proper flowers? Because we're going to look at Booker, we're going to look at Ayton, and we're not going to fully forget that they kind of did it in spite of you when it came to this moment. So I feel for CP3 because he's never been in this position before. It was always untimely injuries. Now it's just untimely bad performance. And I don't see how you recover from that when you get in that situation.
It's almost like we talk about it a lot. Wins above replacement. That really lets you know someone's value. Dak Prescott. He gained his most value when he left. Because the Cowboys without Dak Prescott were like, oh, y'all really ain't like that. Tom Brady, we knew how great Tom Brady was. But then he left, and the Buccaneers shoot from going 7-9 to winning the Super Bowl, and the Patriots go from not having missed the playoffs since Tom Brady was prior hurt in 08 to missing the playoffs again and going 7-9. Wins above replacement. Without Brady, Patriots fall. With Brady, Buccaneers are great. Well, without Chris Paul, the Suns were 2-0 in this series against a team that really had their backs against the wall. Then, Chris Paul, you show up and Y'all 1-2. It could just be a terrible coincidence. It likely is, at least in my mind. I know, Marcellus, you made some great statistical points, and other analysts have co-signed, but for the sake of defending Chris Paul, I'll call it a coincidence, right? Chris Paul shows up, same time Devin Booker catches an elbow, potentially has a broken nose. I'll call it a coincidence that Chris Paul, when you arrive, your team starts to struggle more. But either way, it's a very untimely coincidence that does not benefit Chris Paul.
Yeah, I've been through some of those bad coincidences. You miss a game or so, and the team goes out there and lights it up, balls out, has 5 sacks. You show up, we got no sacks, we get destroyed. It's a little more than a coincidence, too. When you go from a 112 rating with him off the court and then a 97 with him on the court, points per game go down from 112 to 92. Field goal percentage drops 13. 3-point percentage drops 3. It's a lot of damn coincidences. Coming up, Dak Prescott says it's going to be a very special year for the Cowboys. Good Lord. We'll tell you if we agree next on Speak for Yourself. There's a lot of high hopes in Dallas with Dak Prescott's expected return from his season-ending ankle injury. Cowboys have been doing a lot of talking about their upcoming season, and now Dak gave his opinion, saying this year is going to be, quote, very special for us and Cowboys fans. So, Acho, is it going to be a special year for Dak's Cowboys?
No.
Man.
It'll be here's the problem, Sal. Your sentence was correct. The question was correct. I just want to take the question mark, turn it into a period, and move it before the last word. Is it going to be a very special year for Dak's Cowboys? Question mark. Turn it into a period, move it before Cowboys. Is it going to be a very special year for Dak?
I know what you're doing.
Yes, it's going to be an incredibly special year for Dak, but not for his team. I've said this before. I got to say it again. Dak's going to ball this year, as he should.
Facts.
3 top-flight receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper. His left tackle, Tyron Smith, is saying he's healthy, he'll be back. Right tackle, Lyle Collins, saying he's healthy, he'll be back. Future Hall of Fame center has shown the ability to also play guard, or guard shown the ability to also play center. Zach Martin, he's coming back. So the line's coming back, which means Zeke will also be back in top 5, at least top 10 fashion. Dak is going to ball. But again, it comes down to at what expense or at what cost. If he balls, will it be at the expense of the team? Because now they're not going to protect their defense, just Dak airing it out, throwing for 400 yards a game. Or if he balls, at what cost? Is it because they're trailing every game, so Dak Prescott has to drop back and throw the ball 50 times a game? Dak's going to ball. I don't think the Cowboys will.
Sometimes you walk into the kitchen and you're ready to hook it up, cook it up, right? Sprinkle some of that mama's cooking everywhere, Kwame. And sometimes you just open up the fridge like, what we got in here? This one is one I'm looking in the fridge. What Acho talking about? What they got in here? What does special even mean? It means so many different things. Dak's going to ball.
Yes, he is.
Cowboys going to make the playoffs. Cowboys going to win the division. Cowboys going to win a playoff game. Is that special to Acho? Because I noticed you always tell me championship or fail. Damn, I'm a failure, and I love failing. Because, boy, my NFL career felt good to me. But I don't know what the line of demarcation is for what special is. We can see a Cleveland team go out there and win one playoff game, not even win their division, and they had a special year. Or did they? We can see a team go out there and fall short like the Green Bay Packers because they hit the ceiling once again. NFC Championship game. Was that a special year? So, first, let's just have a little conversation about what's special for the Cowboys. Because all those things I said, I think are going to happen.
I'm great you asked that question so we can hijack the statement again. Something special, I think, would have to be the word we previously used, unique.
Okay.
When you talk
Very
about
unique
something
or unique?
just unique. When we talk about something special, it would have to be unique. I don't think making the playoffs for the Cowboys is that unique. Dak's already done it twice. He did it twice in his first 5 years, 4 of which I believe he played healthy. So that's not necessarily special, nor is that unique. Dak won 13 games his rookie season. He won 10 games 2 seasons after that. He won 9 games the season after the 13. So that's not necessarily special because he's just done that before. Plus, you're playing an extra game. What would be special? Unique?
Yes.
Seeing something you see every 25 years, something you see every quarter century.
That's special. Turn that stove down when you over here cooking every 25 years.
Seeing a star,
that is not it.
Seeing a star isn't special. Seeing a shooting star is special. Seeing a lunar eclipse, a solar eclipse, that's special. But just seeing the sun and seeing the moon, That ain't all that special. Walk outside right now, you're going to see one. You look the other way, you're probably going to see the other.
You have lost your gratitude and attitude. Go ahead.
I'm saying, what is special is things we see every quarter century, every 10 years, 5 years at a minimum, every 15. Not something we see every year.
So what is that?
Going to the NFC Championship game would be special. That the Cowboys haven't seen in the last quarter century.
Jerry Jones saw it. He saw it.
Not a quarter century.
Jones saw it 3 championships, went back to back, and then skipped a year, went again. Like, Jerry Jones, like, man, get out of here. This ain't special. Like, I've seen the sun before.
That wouldn't be special right now for Jerry?
It'd be special for this regime. It's always special. I'm just playing a little word game here. Here's the problem. We're not going to respect their growing pains. We're taking it to... Oh, I knew it. This team, were they in the playoffs last year?
Can you have growing pains as an adult?
Yeah, you can.
MJ has growing pains. Your oldest daughter does not still have growing pains.
Her hip is out. She need to work on that right hip. I'm telling you right now, you can have growing pains mentally. You can have growing pains figuratively. You can have growing pains as a collective. The regime changes all the time. Mike McCarthy resurrecting his career, once again redeeming himself as a Super Bowl winning coach. I don't know what special is, but I'll tell you this. Cowboys, NFC divisional game for sure. Cowboys, will they win that game is going to take them to either the special place or the not so special place. I think the Cowboys are in a great position because at least at the most important position, they're going to ball out. You want to go?
I just won. I got to hold you to. You said the Cowboys are going to win the NFC
division.
East. You said they're going to go to the playoffs, and you said they're going to win a playoff game.
Yeah. Now, there could be a wild card win to the divisional game.
Of course. If they do all of those things, I think for some people it would be special. But, Sal, going to the playoffs, the Bears went to the playoffs last year. Like, is that all that? Like, is that all that special? Think about it. More than...
So why is
how many
Cleveland
teams
so
go to the playoffs now? 16? Somebody talking my ear.
32.
How many teams go to the playoffs?
32.
More than 50% of teams are going to the playoffs, I think it is. I think there's a 14 now. It's 14 out of 32.
You got a one bye.
14 out of 32. 40% of the teams go to the playoffs, Sal. That ain't all that special. Something that 40% of people can do is not that special. It's not that unique, nor is it very unique.
Wow. You know what's funny? I just heard this. Now, we are really in hijack stall mode right now. Let me just say this. Do you know that 70% of all Americans live check to check? So that means 30% don't. So we close to that 40% you just said. Is that special? So it's kind of special being in this country and you ain't living check to check.
So if you don't live check to check,
you're special.
No, I mean, it's 30%. It's not unique.
But it doesn't have to be. Hey, all right, live not check
Here's
to check.
the thing.
Live check to check and then tell me if it's special.
You can't solve a Rubik's Cube like I can't solve a Rubik's Cube.
Never happened.
If 40% of people, essentially 1 out of every 2, or 1 out of every 2.5. If 40% of people could solve a Rubik's Cube, it wouldn't be all that special. But because most people can't just sit there and solve a Rubik's Cube, solving a Rubik's Cube is special. If the Cowboys go to the playoffs, which 40% of teams do, that's not unique at all.
All right, look, was it unique? Was it special going to Texas?
Not really. My brother did. Now, what was special?
What?
Playing at Texas with my brother.
Oh, okay.
That was special, and that is unique. But just going to Texas, 88 people on scholarship every year. I mean, it's all right.
True. And they did have a 40% acceptance rate. So coming up, my Clippers are in a must-win situation again. I tell you, they can stay alive again. Had that thing loaded. That's next. Speak for yourself. Shoot and miss. Just a bit outside.
Marcellus looks a little tense because his Clippers are in a must-win situation tonight in Game 6 against the Suns. This game is in L.A. Kawhi ain't going to play, but playoff P got to do what he always does, coming off a career-high 41 points. Sal, your Clippers going to stay alive tonight? Yes.
Let's get to the real question. My name's at the lower bar. I love that.
Can you have more than one best friend? Twitter is voting on the poll I put out, and they are saying, yes, you can.
Yes, you can. Look, for different moments of your life, for different ways you express yourself, you have different best friends. It doesn't sound good in terms of theory, but in practical practice and living day to day, I got 4 or 5 best friends.
You ran track, and in track and field, you have a season's best.
I do.
You have a personal best.
Yes.
You do not have multiple bests.
Oh, but
you best.
What's your best car?
The Bentley.
But when you got to go somewhere else and you had a Lambo, is that not the best car for that situation?
Have one best car. The word best is what changes the answer.
It does. It does until you live through what best is. Look, The best food ever made is tacos. Throw me a damn cheeseburger with some bacon on that thing. I don't know what I'm
But
gonna
if
do.
I threw you a taco and a burger, you're taking a taco because it's
No,
the
I'm
best.
taking both. You know me, big dog rule. That's it for us. Park Bet Live is next. That's interesting. You like?